don't know about that. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thank you so much for joining us this week. I think we got a great show. In addition to our amazing co-hosts, we'll be joined by Kentucky State Senate Democratic floor leader, the senator from Louisville's 33rd State Senate District, Gerald Neal. We'll also be bringing you a Kentucky-focused federal political news roundup, looking at Kentucky's highly interesting week for our delegation, from Massie trolling VP Vance to Mitch McConnell being a bit cavalier about his constituents' health care. We'll use those comments to urge you to use your voice in our call to action. Really should be a great show. So glad you've chosen to join us this week. So before we get into it, are you ready to help create a more compassionate Commonwealth? We are sorely in need of significant political change in Kentucky. You know that. If you found this show on all the different media sites on the interwebs, you know we've got some real challenges, right? And so if we're going to get that political change, we need long-term power building to plug more voters into the races that really matter. If you like our governor, but you can't understand why the GOP supermajority in Frankfort will do absolutely nothing to work with him, we hope you'll support Progress Kentucky in our effort to fix these political challenges. Right now, we're focused on fighting back against Trump's MAGA regime. We need your help. Please make a monthly contribution right now via our secure online website. That's right, folks. Act Blue to help turn Kentucky purple. $10, $20, $200. It all adds up. We've had some wonderful donations in the past, month, like people who've kicked in, who've been involved, decided they wanted to support our work with ongoing monthly contributions, some generous contributions. So we do appreciate it. We're getting close to what we need, but we've got some significant needs. We want to ramp up, level up our work. And so your support really makes the difference. All right. So let's check in with our co-host. Let us know who you are, where you are, what are you protesting today? You there watching on the interweb. We mean you as well. We want to hear what you're most concerned about today. There's a lot going on. Feel free to put it in the chat while we're sharing ours. I'm Aaron, coming to you from Chilesburg. You'll know you've hit Chilesburg as you're driving out of Lexington, and it's like the last subdivision before you hit the growth boundary, I'm pretty sure. So my sign says, bring Ernesto home. If you're not following along that story, a student, Ecuadorian, but been in the Americas since a little tyke, and very popular kid at school, just graduated from high school in Bowling Green. That's Ernesto, and he's been grabbed by ICE and hasn't done anything wrong besides, he was trying to get legal status. He was going through the process. And of course, that's where ICE is most active, right? So folks who are trying to do their darndest to do the right thing, when they show up, they grab them. So really unfortunate. These sad stories are accumulating rapidly, and just shows the kind of heartlessness of this administration, and really how much they lied about just going after criminals. So at any rate, that's me. Let's check in. Kimberly, are you there, Kimberly?
I sure am. How are you doing,
Aaron?
Good. Our listeners and viewers, how you doing? My protest sign says tonight, shout out to the NAACP for saying that a president cannot come to the convention, and it has not happened in 116 years. The NAACP said, "No, Trump, we don't want you here." Shout out to the NAACP.
Yeah, that's big. That is absolutely big. Landmark decision for those guys. We've been working with the Lexington branch leadership for our organizing of the big mass mobilizations. They've been fantastic to work with, very principled, very thoughtful, great group to work with. We appreciate their engagement there, and I appreciate their leadership in that space for sure. Nema, are you there?
I am here. I'm Nema, and I'm coming to you tonight from beautiful Angola on the Lake, New York, which is 30 minutes outside of Buffalo. I am on vacation and ready to talk politics and do whatever else, talk Kentucky with you guys. My protest sign today says, and I haven't been paying much attention to the news, if I can be totally honest, but my protest sign today says, never get over it, Kentucky. Never get over it. And of course, I am in reference to our esteemed Senator Mitch McConnell, who, when apparently was overheard saying when talking about cuts to Medicaid, that they're getting a lot of calls, but you know what? Voters will get over it. So I say we should never get over it, Kentucky, and we should look at this as a lesson on when you give someone their position and continue to reward them for doing absolutely nothing except cause more misery and pain, then this is exactly what we get. This man has health care for life and has had a really nice job for life. We can do better, Kentucky. We should do better. And, Mitch is going to Mitch.
Yeah, man. Mitch never lets us down and letting us down, as our friend Kit always used to say. So it really is. I want to just acknowledge Nema, who is coming to us from vacation. I don't know how 30 minutes outside of Buffalo, there's not so much stuff going on that you couldn't tear yourself away. Everyone knows 30 minutes outside of Buffalo is the place to go for your summer vacation.
Listen, I'm glad you're mocking it because when you go, because it's so fabulous and a 77 degree, I have on a sweatshirt. You all are down there like at the gates of hell. I'm here with a nice breeze. Oh my gosh, beautiful. But listen, you're right. Don't come here. Don't.
Wait a minute. I want to know, was that a cocktail that you were? It looked.
No, this is just lemonade. This is just. I haven't spiked it yet.
Who's going to be on vacation just drinking lemonade? Whatever, Nema. Okay.
And Kimberly, who's here despite being under the weather. Really, just thank you all for pitching in, making this all volunteer effort go each week. So nice job. Also, Annabel, who's here behind the scenes. Making sure that, we do the production stuff. Speaking of, let's get into our next segment. Very exciting to bring you news of the week. I love that, animation. We're so just, super pro now. News of the week animation. If you're listening to this as a podcast, just know the letters are moving on the screen, people. It's amazing. Although we did lose the joke. That's fine. It'll just be the news of the week, not not news of the lame. But it's about Kentucky politics, and this one really is kind of about the week, right? So Trump bombed Iran. That's the big news. And then in, kind of bizarro world, the most principled objector right now seems to be Thomas Massie, right? You hate to say it because Jesus, but that guy, the principled grandstander, has been objecting to this, which I think is, the right thing to do, because we know on Friday, Trump illegally ordered airstrikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites, pulling the United States into a conflict initiated by Israel without congressional authorization that really is required for a declaration of war. Although J.D. Vance says, really, we're just declaring war on their nuclear program. I didn't know that's a thing you could do, but his unconstitutional use of force really endangers lives abroad and domestically. And Kentucky's own Thomas Massie has partnered with Representative Ro Khanna from California to introduce a war powers resolution to block unauthorized U.S. military involvement in Iran. It would force an up or down vote and send a powerful pro-peace message that Trump does not have a blank check for war, which, pretty fantastic. Massie called his action unconstitutional. Of course, on the other side of that, Representative Andy Barr said Trump was, doing what he had to do to protect the safety and security of the American people, which is a little bit insane. Massie also criticized Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson for not calling the House back from vacation last week to consider that bipartisan war powers resolution. And this is from the Kentucky Lantern, just so you know. Massie then said, I think I represent part of the coalition that elected President Trump. Obviously, he was on CBS News Face the Nation. He went on, we were tired of endless wars in the Middle East, tired of wars in Eastern Europe, and we were promised that we would put our veterans, our immigration policies, and our infrastructure first. Massie went on to say that Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States, that Congress should have been briefed on the president's plans before bombing attacks were launched. The reality is they don't have a missile that can reach the United States. They're not near to getting a missile that can reach the United States. And then, Mitch said it was great. And then Rand Paul said, I hope he doesn't pull us into something, which I guess he didn't have an updated statement. But yeah, it does seem to me. And let's give a little shout out to Morgan McGarvey, who said the Constitution is clear. No president can declare war. On behalf of all Louisvillians, especially the brave men and women stationed abroad, I will fight to hold the Trump administration accountable for its decision to engage in direct military action against Iran without congressional authorization. So, and he didn't brief anyone. They didn't do even the Gang of Eight, which, the kind of key Senate and House leaders of both parties and folks who lead the key committees, defense, etc. And so, he really just thumbed his nose at everything except for what Bibi Netanyahu thought was the right thing to do. And it's, absolutely gross. I mean, it seems like Iran is mostly blinking, but it also seems mostly like we didn't actually accomplish our objective. If it was to really bomb the nuclear program, leaked assessments show that we didn't actually impact their nuclear program very well, despite the impressive sounding bunker buster bombs that we dropped on them. So I don't know. The whole thing seems a little bit crazy. I do want to turn to Kimberly, because we all know your daughter has been stationed in the Middle East, and kind of what your thoughts are about this whole process and how it's gone down.
Yes. Aaron, as you well know, I told you that my daughter had called me, 2 weeks ago, and had told me that I was going to hear a lot of things in the news. And she said, I mean, a lot of things, but she said, please do not be worried about me. We do have systems in place for evacuations. I said, what are the Saudis going to do? Because my daughter is stationed right now in Doha, Saudi Arabia, and she actually works on the Saudi Arabian Air Force base. There is no U.S. military base there. And she said they're not really going to do too much of anything, but, they'll do the least of what the U.S. tells them to do. And right now, she cannot go on their base, and she is living in her villa. However, she said that she's living like she's in a hotel. She's living out of a suitcase because they may only have 10 minutes to be evacuated. So I did talk to her at length every day. We've been keeping in contact, and she's been saying some things, and other sources have been telling me some things as far as before the bombs, the Iranians bombed in Doha, Qatar. Some people say Qatar. My daughter, if you remember, Aaron, was stationed at that very Air Force base. What was it, about maybe 3-4 years ago? And she said before they even did the bombing, Iran called our U.S. military and also called our U.S. government and said basically, hey, we're going to bomb over here at such and such time, and you need to evacuate your people. So is it really a war when you do that? And she told me that's not uncommon. I had never heard of that before. But she did say that that was very common with a lot of countries. So confusing. I asked her if she was scared, afraid, and she said, no, not really. I seem to always be close to the action wherever I've been stationed or deployed. But she said she does feel anxiety because she doesn't know if they're going to have to move quickly or whatever. And also, Aaron, I do want to say that where she is stationed right now in Dammam, Saudi Arabia, it's only 200 miles from the border of Iran. So that's what's going on with that.
Yeah. That's something. That's real. That's serious. Absolutely serious. Yeah. So I'm glad your daughter's okay. Glad they're getting really important intel. Also, that it seems like Iran does not want to escalate. Right? If you tell them, "Hey, we're going to send some missiles your way, and here's where we're sending them," that's not exactly the most effective way, I think, of waging war. I'm not a military expert, but it seems like there was really just a face-saving move. So Matt. Go ahead.
One other thing that she told me that our viewers and listeners might be interested in also is that Iran does not have good intel. So Israel is known in the world as having some of the best intel in the world. So Iran is at a very, very big disadvantage because they don't have the intel of when Israel is going to be bombing and things of that nature. And she's also said to me, she said, the United States, our air game is on point. Everybody threatens, but they do not want to mess with the United States with our air game. They don't want to have a war in the air.
No, obviously, we there's some domination there for sure. I don't think anyone really questions that. Hey, Nema, do you want to talk about this, or should we keep talking about Massie?
No, let's just keep going with Massie.
A couple other points. We just need to remind everyone that Thomas Massie, principled objector to the big beautiful bill, which I hate to say, but like the reconciliation bill, the big horrible bill, because it would blow out the deficit significantly. So Massie voted against it because of those reasons. We don't agree on the reasons necessarily, but it's impressive to see him being fairly, holding to his principles despite a lot of pressure from Trump. He does not seem to care very much about what Trump thinks about him, which I kind of like to watch. And then he, in fact, was trolling Vice President Vance recently. I don't know if folks saw this on Twitter. We got the graphic, though, where J.D. Vance... Jesus, I wonder if other VPs had as much excitement as I do. Ha ha ha. And then Thomas Massie replied, "Ask Mike Pence about his last month." Just really fucking 10 out of 10. No notes on that one. That is just I don't know. Nema, you got a good Twitter game. What did you think of his response?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that the interesting thing about watching this with Thomas Massie and other Republicans, let's just be honest, in the country, who the way that they've handled the Trump reign of this last time around. And what I think is funny about the Thomas Massie situation is that I'm beginning to think that he's actually principled, like you said. And I think that some people who had thought they love Trump because of all of these, crazy things, blah, 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 whatever, his racism, all of those things. But they actually have principles and they're actually following them. And I think that they're really frustrated because they made the mistake of thinking he had principles too. Let's remember, Donald Trump has only been a Republican for a few years. This is a man who cares more about the dollar than he does any kind of political party. And that is what I think is happening. And you've seen it with Rand Paul, and now you're seeing it with Thomas Massie. And, let's be very clear, Aaron, there was a lot of people who backed Thomas Massie and Donald Trump. And the question is what does that look like? What does that hen house look like right now in Northern Kentucky? Because I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't want to sort out the teams on that situation for any amount of money. But that's what I'm beginning to wonder. What does this do to our Northern Kentucky folks politically in this state? What does that look like?
It'll be interesting, right? Because if Trump is not in a forgiving mood and decides I'm going all in, I'm going to recruit a primary opponent and I'm going to support them and try to get rid of Massie. Massie's been, I think, proven to be pretty popular because of those principled stances that I mostly completely 100% disagree with. But yeah, I say make it messy, people. I'm all for
right? That's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, this is going to be crazy. This could be Wild West potential is what I'm saying, because it's been wild up there for a while. but it's going to get wilder, guaranteed.
Oh, yeah, they are, that Liberty Wing is strong up there, right? At the state
I
house
don't
level
feel,
and at the federal level.
I don't, like I can't forget all the things that Thomas Massie and Rand Paul and the others, what they've done before. Just like I don't forget what Elon Musk has done before. Just because you stand up for one or two things does not make me think at all that you have any type of principles. Maybe you're standing up for that because that was something you already felt in your heart, but it does not overshadow for me all of the other heinous things that these people have done. And I guess he's growing a beard like Ted Cruz did at that time to like hide all his mess or whatever. He's trying to be a silver fox talking about Thomas Massie. But I'm just telling you, like, I don't like these people. And then second of all, Nema, I am going to say this as well. There is no more Republican Party. The Republican Party is gone.
No, I agree. I completely agree.
Liz
I don't even know the
Cheney,
platform.
Mitt
Yeah, I don't
Romney.
even know the
They don't
platform.
have
Like,
a platform, right? They don't, they
right.
don't do a platform. I feel like maybe that's been a
It
minute,
is
but like
the party of Trump. It's
a
called,
Trump.
they might as well
It's
just
a
put
cult.
it on the ballot, Democrats and Trumpsters.
No, I mean,
That's
I
my
completely
take
agree.
right there.
Well, I believe the Republicans have conceded their party for it's like this. This is the situation where everybody's a cobra, and then they complain when the other cobra bite. It's the cobra. Everyone wants to play with the cobra because hey, cool cobra. And then when the cobra strikes you, you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I got struck by a cobra. It's like, what did you think it was, Massie? What did you think he was going to do? Like this is again, it's just like watching two snakes going at. I mean, you're trying to eat each other. I don't even know what's happening, but you're exactly right, Kim. There is no more Republican Party.
I did want to
They
point
have
out,
been consumed.
and Kim, just to be clear, like I'm sure you were listening attentively to everything I said, but no one's like given like, yeah, I think it might be a principled stance, but they're principles that I fundamentally disagree with, right? So I think they're it's a mix of opportunism, but he sticks to his guns. And Annabel is just desperately reminding us that there's somebody running against Massie. That is Monica Dean, who we have met. She came out to one of our events, came all the way down to the Bluegrass to hang out with us. Really impressed with her. She's got military service. She's a veteran, really committed to veterans issues, which the GOP no longer seems to be. So yeah, I think she's awesome, and but I would just love to see, I really would love to see a Trump-backed super PAC taking on Massie. I'm just here for the fight, All right, so let's move on. We got another story we want to cover before we get to our guest. Nema, again, in this bizarro world that we are living in, maybe something that we hate did something that we like. I don't know.
Yeah. So in Letcher County, there has been a proposal for a prison for about 20 years. And apparently that project is on hold yet again because Doge are they even still doing that? I don't even know, but I guess they are. So Doge has apparently said, no, we're not going to give you that $500 million, Letcher County, again. And this has been going on for 20 years. So it looks like this prison project is on hold again. Now, Aaron, this is a controversial project and has been from jump. A lot of people, this is my home county. A lot of people in the county want the prison because obviously they are desperate for well-paying, good-paying jobs and that have pensions and good benefits. And they see these federal jobs as an opportunity. But then you also have the flip side of that, which is, these prisons, do we really, number one, need another prison? Number two, how many locals actually have the higher paying jobs there? There's a lot of talk that locals really only get, the lowest paying jobs while they bring in everybody else that's already in the prison system. So it's one of those things that's been very controversial back home. There's been obviously people who want jobs, see this as an opportunity, people who are saying our opportunities, this is not an opportunity. This is just going to be, another eyesore in the community. They talked about, I believe, Leavenworth, Kansas. And there's been all kinds of talk about how, it really puts a stigma on your community when these prisons come here. And so there's been a whole lot of back and forth, but Hal Rogers, who, let me just say this. Why is nobody talking about Hal Rogers and his mental faculties right now? The man is, I don't know how old, been there a long time, king of pork when I was growing up. And, Democrats and Republicans voted for the man. And, he's been there a long time. And this has been one of his pet projects. And even the king of pork has not been able to pull this to go through, not just in a Biden administration, but also in the previous Trump administration. There's been issues with funding for this. So this goes across party lines. And to me, it signals the decline in Hal Rogers and his ability to get things done for his congressional district in the state of Kentucky now. I mean, 20 years and you can't get it done, Hal. That is, to me, very problematic.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And, at one point, I think a lot of, as you pointed out, a lot of people are like, oh, these are jobs. We want these jobs. The Prison Policy Project have analyzed the towns and what happened. But prisons actually deepen poverty in the communities where they're built, deepen poverty the most in towns that are the most impoverished to begin with, rather than create local jobs. Most openings are filled by senior corrections workers from other areas. In fact, local workers are often rejected from the jobs because of symptoms of local poverty, bad credit histories, low levels of education, criminal records, drug use, age, even a lack of prior experience put locals at a disadvantage. So yeah, really it is, it's not good for the local community. And so I think, it's not that I like Doge. Far from it, but if it cut a project that really was problematic for Letcher County, then okay.
Well, yeah, and I also think it really though shows the desperation for meaningful work that pays a living wage, and really and truly, that's all people want, right? Is to be able to do meaningful work for a living wage, and until we address that issue. In Letcher County and other counties that surround Letcher County, we're always going to be reaching for things that may or may not be good for us in the end. Look at King Cole. King Cole always gets the best end of the deal and will always get the best end of the deal. So we always it's hard not to rush in when you're desperate. So.
No, for sure. Absolutely. And since we are touting the people who are running against our least favored members of Congress, it is going to become official, I think, on the 4th of July. Ned Pillersdorf is running against Hal Rogers. And Ned is, I think, a fully legit candidate.
Absolutely.
Tough to beat, especially when Hal is so, tough to find a pulse with, right? So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good stuff. Kimberly, anything you want to weigh in on here?
You all have said it all. I have no words. I mean,
right.
There are just certain things where I have no words. I have no words. We need to be working more on keeping people out of prisons, like how you all were talking about, than spending a lot of money on prisons. I wonder why we're running number 1 in the world, basically, for prison population. Why is that?
Yeah.
Well, because it's profitable. I mean, if people weren't making money off of it, it wouldn't be going on. And it's, and it's one of those things. It's profitable. And, it's another way, I think, to separate, like just keep people afraid of the machine that we have. I mean, it's an industry, it's just a business. And the more, the better. And the conditions in some of the jails in the counties in this state are just absolutely horrendous. And, you keep wondering, what are we doing here? And I agree with you. Why are we doing this? What is really going on here? So we can do better and we should do better. So bravo to Doge on this one, I guess. Yeah.
Things we hate, doing things we're okay with. This is the theme of this show. All right, so I think we could roll into our guest. I'm thinking that our guest is here and is ready to
Most
have a conversation.
definitely, yes. I heard
Awesome.
that wonderful Senator Gerald Neal of Louisville's 33rd Senate District, and he's also the minority floor leader as well. He's a champion for over 30 years of community work. I know him personally, so I can speak with confidence, knowing him and knowing the things that he stands for. And we do have a surprise towards the end of the interview today. So I would like to welcome a friend of Kentucky, a friend of Louisville, and most definitely someone that I call a friend, Senator Gerald Neal.
We might need to stall a minute because it doesn't look like the senator.
Okay, well, I got something to say really quickly.
Okay.
I got something to say. Sometimes I don't, but most of the times I do. So what I have to say is this. You know how I used to always say about I was an AKA, you know, and our vice president was an AKA. You all
We
haven't
stopped
heard
talking
that.
about that so much. It's weird.
I know. You know, my new thing was, so I mean, we haven't talked anything about our wonderful, great, amazing governor. You know, every episode I have to say something about our great governor, Andy Beshear, who probably, most definitely, I feel from my contacts on the inside that it could be a 99.8% chance that he will run for president. And I think he would do an absolutely great job. We need somebody calm, efficient, but also you can't push him around either to get things back in order.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
Okay. I think you're gonna need to say more.
I need to say more.
Or you could text Senator Neal and say, sir, are you ready to join us?
Yeah, let me see. I think I call him. Let's see.
I mean,
Let's see. We're doing a live call.
His video's here. All we need to do is get him to come back.
Hold on, he's calling me.
Oh, okay.
We're on. Yeah, we're waiting for him.
Well, I'm very amused by listening to you all talking about me.
Well, come on. We got questions we got to ask you, Senator. Come on.
I understand, but for some reason, if you look at the picture on the screen, it's skewed, and I have no idea why. So this is beyond my expertise. Let's say that.
Okay.
So how do we? I'm unmuted, so I'm not sure what else.
We can't see you. We can't see you.
That's because of. Let me just say this. This is unusual, but it has something to do with the technical connections, which are beyond they're outside my wheelhouse. Let's put it that way.
Okay, well, just go to a blank screen or whatever, and then we can ask you the questions.
Well,
okay.
Let's try. Hey, let's mute. Hold on one second. I think we can unmute you. There we go.
Yeah, unmute me.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yep.
Okay. So
Just hang up, Kimberly.
first of all, hello everyone, and thank you for having me. And I wish I could put my picture up there, but I have no control over this. This is beyond my capacity. So I hope we can still be useful with respect to what we have. But it was amusing to hear you talking about me, and I heard a little bit about your program and the exchange you had, and I found it quite enjoyable and quite insightful.
Well, thank you. Well, we thought we were going to see your handsome face today. He is like still one of the best dressed men in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm just going to say probably in the whole state. Okay. Probably in the whole entire state.
I guess that money I gave you paid off, huh?
Oh, man. You weren't supposed to tell everybody. Oh, my goodness. I wish you did give me some money. But no, welcome, Senator. We are so glad that you took time out of your day to be with us this evening. Want to talk to you a little bit about last week. It was Juneteenth, and first of all, we all want to know, how did you celebrate Juneteenth? And then also, it seems like you have a partner in the governor's mansion who wants to make sure that Black Independence Day is celebrated. But we need to mention that you've had a bill to make Juneteenth a state holiday. And there is a plethora of people right now that are very, very upset that it is not a state holiday. Can you share some of your views on that bill, and, how that came about, the history of that bill? And I want to know, did you barbecue Juneteenth? Did you go to some stuff? What did you do?
Boy, thank you. Well, Juneteenth, I was working. I work 7 days a week. That doesn't mean I work 8 or more hours a day, but I'm always working. It's always people coming to me. There's always issues out here. But I did spend some time with family. And I opted out of the programmatic pieces that were out there. And I was trying to overcome a jet lag, because I had come from the East Coast to Tahoe, back to the East Coast, and it caught up with me. So, but I'm whole again.
Well, I'm glad that you're whole again. So tell us a little bit about how that bill came into play. What were your thoughts about the bill moving forward?
Yeah.
What do you think? Is it ever going to become a state holiday?
Well, I have to answer that this way. In my business, sometimes you can file something, you think it's a home run and it goes no place, or you think it's dead and you put it out there for other reasons and it passes immediately. So you never really know, unless you are, I guess, in leadership. And even in leadership, and I'm talking about majority leadership, which I'm not, you can't hardly tell. For instance, I used to serve in majority leadership, and I was headed to chair of the Appropriation Revenue Committee when the Senate flipped in Kentucky, and things changed, and it's been downhill to a certain extent then. So, when you're in the majority, you get to set the agenda. You deal with all kind of factors. Some of them are knowable, are known, and some aren't. So I can't answer that directly, other than to say that obviously it had a low priority with respect to this legislature, and it has historically. And that's unfortunate, because Juneteenth is significant in our whole historical context. But I see the lack of embrace consistent with a lot of other actions taken about across the country, but also in Kentucky, that are aimed to nullify history and to nullify the truth as to exactly what has happened. And they passing up a wonderful opportunity for us to understand, grow together, fashion a future together that embraces us all, gives value to life, and gets us to the point where we really can do the real work, continue to do the real work. I'm not saying we don't do good work, because I think we do, but we miss many opportunities when we think like that.
So, do you have any legislative priorities right now for the interim session?
Well, I'm still on appropriation revenue, that committee, and the budget bill is always the biggie, no matter what. There are a lot of things that get, I guess, folks will pay attention to in terms of what we deal with, and they are important for sure. But at the end of the day, it gets down to the ability to actually enable to bring value to people's lives, to give them the ability to lift themselves up. I'm committed to uplift. But at the same time, there's always limited resources. So the policies that we adopt are crucial every time we do that. And the budget bill, I think, would be central to that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Senator Neal, this is Aaron Viles. Thank you so much for joining the show. And like most of our guests in the Louisville area, I just feel like there's a sense of like, well, whatever Kimberly tells me to do, I do. I don't know. I don't know if that's similar to you. It's like 100% really of the guests we had from the Louisville political establishment. They just, whatever Kimberly says. So I did want to check in though on the federal level. There's a lot of news. We're seeing significant funding cuts. One story we talked about earlier, either the Doge cuts, which are hitting a lot of different agencies, or through this big, horrible bill. What concerns do you have about how the potential loss of federal funding would impact state budgets for education, for healthcare, these efforts to establish universal pre-K? What's your read on that funding landscape due to the federal, kind of what we can see coming at the federal level?
Well, I think the most obvious thing is that you got to look at the big game from my perspective. This is a shift of resources to the upper 1, maybe 2%. That's what that tax cut was about. That's what that tax cut is about. That trickle down stuff doesn't work. It's been disproven over and over again. They run the same game every time. It does not exist. The other part of that, of course, is where do you get the money? And the money is wherever you want to get the money from. And who are the most vulnerable, and who are those individuals that you can target to grab that money? And part of that is in the area of Medicaid. This attack on Medicaid, you can look at it from the standpoint, and then let me say this Medicaid thing is really horrendous, because in Kentucky, who has a supermajority Republicans, I noted you all's comment about the Republican Party's gone, but there's still people out there that consider themselves to be Republicans. Think about it for a moment. They are falling right in line policy-wise with the national individuals led by Trump. And guess what? Their attack is to attack what? Their primary base. That's in the rural areas of the community. Of the state, of the Commonwealth. So think about it. They have a conundrum here. They have a problem because Kentucky is directly being adversely affected as we speak, not just something that's coming, as we speak. And there are a lot of things that are looming, and it's not just around Medicaid. The whole push against the environmental piece, the piece that deals with the cars, the electric cars, for instance. Kentucky has invested a lot in that particular piece. It was poised for thousands of jobs. Think about this. And now that becomes questionable as to what extent and what effect or positive impact it's going to have because of the adverse policies that have been adopted as it relates to that particular area. I can go on and on and on. I can go into the tariffs and their adverse effects, particularly those who are doing in the international spirits market. You're talking about the bourbon, that piece that's poised to hurt us. People say, well, we might get hurt. Well, they've already taken product off the shelves in Canada. They already are positioning themselves and limiting their exposure to our product and actually reacting or poised to react in degrees against those folks that are doing that. So, I could go on and on and on because the question is, who is leading this country? You have to look at this guy, our president, President Trump, and you have to raise some serious questions about the way he goes about his business and whether or not he feels or understands that part of living life is how you live that life. And it's not just about what you can do, who you can hurt, how you can get to your objective, notwithstanding those people who may be standing in the way. And I think that is a moral deficit. I think it's one of those things that's going to tell them. Now, let me tell you the other side of this. So I run into a lot of people who feel depressed about this. Oh, woe is me. Look what's coming down the road. The way I look at it is an opportunity. I see it as an opportunity for us to come together. Those small things that divide us, that lack of urgency, that I would argue does not exist. The silo activity that goes on with people who have great capacity who want to do great good, and in their silos they do great good, but have not reached beyond those silos to connect in ways that are important to people overall and so forth, and to defend those values that we think are important. So you better stop me because I can go on and on and on in this particular framework.
All right, Nema, I think you get the next question for the senator.
Oh, I can't see it. So you could, yeah, sorry, I'm on the phone. I'm having technology issues as well, Senator. So
Yeah, but I
I
can
do it.
how
I
are
do
you,
it.
sir?
I'm doing just fine. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to finally, yeah, get to hear you and hear you talk. I've enjoyed it.
We'll make it a visual thing from your side eventually.
All right, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Aaron, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't see. Go. You asked the question. Yeah.
Kimberly, you want it?
Because this is the fun one. This is the
Oh.
one right here. This is the one. Senator Neal, you have gotten an immense amount of attention on TikTok. I didn't know that you were a TikTok, viral influencer until I saw this. And it is the video of you confronting your Senate colleague, Max Wise, in the wake of the anti-DEI legislation being taken up. So we're going to play that video so everybody can see that video, and then we will get your thoughts.
I love Senator Thomas comes running over to to stop the altercation. But man, Senator Neal, you are steamed.
Well, should I speak now?
Sure. Yeah,
Sure.
we're watching it a little bit on the loop, but we don't have audio for it anyway. So yeah, but it definitely looks like you're quite steamed. You slam your papers on the desk, and then you square up with Max Wise, and that's when Reggie comes running over to like, whoa, gentlemen. So I'll narrate it from my perspective, what it looks like is happening. But yeah, tell us from your perspective, what the heck was going on there?
Well, understand there are 38 individuals that function as senators in Kentucky, and sometimes you would imagine that sometimes we get irritated about a few things, and what you're witnessing here is an elevated conversation. That's the way I would like to frame that. I have no personal animosity toward anybody in the Senate. In fact, I respect my colleagues immensely. The problem is that there's all kinds of reasons and all kinds of circumstances that will bring what we all are as human beings out. And that was just the circumstances where we had an exchange that informed each of us as to the space we occupied and what kind of respect needs to be demonstrated with respect to that. So I will kind of leave it there, except to say this, that I enjoy working with my colleagues, and I enjoy my friend Max Wise as it relates to that. But as my daddy used to tell me when I was a kid, he said, son, everything is fine. Treat everybody well. Show them the most respect that you can, but never let them get in your space. And, I can't get into the details, but that was the circumstance. And I think we resolved that. And in fact, 3 days after that, I got a call from a university in Kentucky. They wanted me to come up and be on a panel. And they said, I said, well, who's on the panel? And the individual they indicated was Senator Max Wise. I immediately accepted. We went up there and had a really good exchange. But what was beautiful about it is that was an academic framework, and therefore take all the emotion out of it, and let's put our heads into it. And I didn't get any pushback on the positions I was taking there. And I might point out too that I fully expect them to come, and an invitation would be extended for them to come to Louisville, so we can have them in a framework where we can give them the same pleasantries that I received. at his university. So my point is this, is that regardless of what happens, there's the next day. And you can't let your personal feelings, you can't let things that happen when you have a responsibility, the one I have, the one my colleagues have, blind you from staying focused on what you have to do. You have to deal with that next day. So we're dealing good. It's going to be okay. Except they have a real problem. They have the national government, the federal government coming after Kentucky. And they're going to have to solve that some sort of way. And we'll see.
Yep.
I just want to say that I think most of the constituency, we want to see our lawmakers stand up for us. We want to see some of that contention from time to time. We want to see exactly what we saw. I think I personally have always respected you from when I was a kid, and my mom, knew you. But that level of respect went way up because we need to see that from time to time, that, stuff gets under our lawmakers' skin, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, I looked at that and I felt like I already know you're for me, but you understand what I'm saying? Like,
And
I
exactly
really
what you're saying.
knew you were for me, and you felt my anger, you felt my anguish, you felt my heart about the situation.
Well,
And a lot of people have that way.
I'm sorry, Kimberly. I got calls for a week from at least 20 states saying exactly what you're saying. I did not intend and did not realize that it was going to go viral. And when it did go viral and I got that kind of response, it underscored exactly what you're saying. People want to see people stand up for them and they want to see it demonstrated. Unfortunately, in the situation I'm in, most of the time we're not doing that kind of thing. The things that we do are not contentious. And if you tune in on us, you will not see all of that, and particularly in the Senate. Now, in the House, I cannot speak for the House. The House can get rambunctious sometimes. But in the Senate, the decorum there, historically, has not been that aggressive display that you would normally see. Now, don't get me wrong. I was arrested 11 times during the Civil Rights era, okay? I've been in confrontational situations throughout my life. I would say up until I became an established attorney in Kentucky, and I started using policy, using my tools that I acquired then. I didn't have those then. Well, guess what? I'm in the legislature. Just having that platform itself is huge, and I can't squander it on trying to make a point. What I have to do is look for value and bring that value home. Now, when somebody comes in my space, like my daddy said, I have to do my other thing. But that's what that was about. I just want to be clear on that because I'm not beating my chest about it. What I'm looking for is the next opportunity to serve the people of the Commonwealth, to serve the people of my district, to bring value to people who are looking for shelter, people who are traumatized in their mental state, people who do not have access to adequate education, people who do not have all those things that I'm used to having, and they should have. So that's what I'm about. How do I bring value to my district?
I'm in your district.
That's right.
You're my senator.
And you're my friend.
Well, I'm going to say it was a boost, just a little shot of energy to us folks in the trenches, to see it, just like Kim was saying. It really, I mean, it meant so much to, the ones of us that have been toiling away. And I'll say, I giggled, I will be honest, because as a public education activist, I was glad to see that somebody had felt finally enough of hearing Max's excuses or whatever the conversation was. I will tell you, I was like, oh my gosh, I appreciate you so much, Senator Neal, for doing what a lot of us wish we could have done many, many times dealing with Senator Wise. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for those comments. And let me tell you this, notwithstanding everything I've just said about that particular piece, I'm human. I know what I stand for. I know who I represent. But that is a point that I think from time to time is good to fire up some folks and confirm that that's where you are. You know,
Yeah.
At this stage of the game, I'm calculating. I'm a little more laid back. I have to negotiate with the other side. I can't shut that down because I want to ball my fist up. You know.
Right. Well, I think that's what made it even more powerful because you are so respected in the entire, the entire floor of the Senate. And so, and a lot of us, like I said, in the trenches, have appreciated your work for a while. So I just think that, we appreciate you. We appreciate the work that you do. We appreciate that you're sitting there every day listening and seeing a lot more than we're seeing. And, we appreciate the emotion because I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it.
No, you got to be a certain type of a person to keep it cool. And Senator Neal has been that person, and he has been a role model for a lot of us. And we really appreciate you coming on the show tonight, Senator Neal. I'll be calling upon you as I do from time to time.
Of course.
And I just really appreciate you taking your time out. I know our listeners and viewers do as well. So take care of yourself, and you know that we'll be calling you to come back on the show.
Well,
yes, thank you, Senator Neal.
Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you.
God bless you too.
All right, so let's roll into our call to action. We've got, I think, some really important stuff to cover. Right now, 35 rural hospitals are in danger of closure due to the budget cuts, the Medicaid cuts. Mitch's response is that we'll get over it. Yeah, that's right. So the proposals from the Senate Finance Committee become law. You're going to have this is from the Kentucky Lantern story. If proposals from the Senate Finance Committee become law, you'll have the quote, you'll have hospitals closed, services eliminated, and 20,000 jobs eliminated in Kentucky, warns Nancy Galvani, president and CEO of the Kentucky Hospital Association. Right. So this is not, this is not a hair on fire group. While Republican senators from some of these states are voicing worries similar to those of Kentucky hospitals, Kentucky Senator Mitch McConnell had a different message for Senate Republicans. He said, quote, I know a lot of us are hearing from people back home about Medicaid, but they'll get over it, McConnell was reported as saying. This is a closed meeting. Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican from North Carolina who's up for re-election, he raised concerns about Senate proposed changes to the provider tax that help support hospitals caring for large numbers of Medicaid patients. Tillis warned that provisions in the mega bill that Republican leaders hope to approve by July 4th could result in GOP electoral losses similar to those suffered by Democrats after passage of Obamacare. This is a horrible idea. They've timed out most of the impacts of this bill, so it happens after elections, right? But it is a horrible bill, and the fact that Mitch McConnell is telling us, people will get over it. That's like 500,000 Kentuckians could very well lose their health care coverage. Again, 35 rural hospitals in Kentucky would be threatened with closure if these budgetary changes are made. So what I want to do right now for our call to action is tell you to head to our website right now. We've got an Action Network page. You can send an email to your member of Congress, to both of our senators, urge them to reject these horrible cuts. It only takes you, I think, like 45 seconds last time I timed it out. If you're a slow typer, it's worth doing. Do it right now. Take action, make sure that we hold these Republicans accountable for this big, horrible bill and the horrible Medicaid cuts that are locked into it. All right, so that's it. Let's go ahead and I think that's it for the show. I think we're good with the show. I think that's it. Kimberly, you want to close this out?
I sure will, Aaron. Great show tonight. And I also noticed also where Annabel had put in there that Senator Neal was having an elevated conversation and that he was all about that good trouble. So we kudos to him. But Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Alliance Voter Engagement, known as CAVE. And we are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Please join us next week for our 217th episode. We will be joined by the publisher of Forward Kentucky, our friend Bruce Maples, for a conversation about how progressive politicians should be treating this alarming political crises, both in Kentucky and across the country. Production of episode 216 was by our very own Annabel Nagel, and she always does an amazing job. Nate Orshan wrote and performed our theme songs. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. That's NATO songs.com. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcasts and our show notes are always available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and just about wherever you get your podcast. If you do listen to the podcast, please, please, please give us a 5-star review whenever you listen. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be right back here next week. Same channel, same time. Have a good week.